Hello, in this presentation we will enter a purchase order into QuickBooks Online. We will have a comprehensive QuickBooks Online course soon, if not available yet. We also have a comprehensive Excel course which complements the QuickBooks courses and a QuickBooks Pro desktop version course you can find at the link below. Here we are on the QuickBooks Online dashboard. We will be continuing with the Get Great Guitar problem. If you've been continuing along with us, that's great. If not, that's okay. We're going to be entering a purchase order at this time. Before we continue on entering the purchase order, we're going to check the settings to see that we have the tracking for customers within the purchase order. So we have the purchase order turned on, we have purchase orders enabled. We want to check that the tracking for customers so that we can enter customer fields, as will become more apparent, is enabled. In order to do that, we're going to go to this cog up top, select this cog up top, and we're going to go to the account settings. We want to see our account settings. Within the account settings, we're going to scroll down to the expense tab on the left hand side. Looking through those expense tabs, we want to pick this one here, the tracking expense items by customer. It's currently turned off. I'm going to turn this on. Turn that item on, then that'll allow us to click this item. So we'll click that item and then save this. And now that item is on. So we have the track expenses and items on. This will allow us to add a customer field as we enter data into our purchase order. So I'm going to close out of this and go back to the dashboard. So we'll close this, Xing out. There's a couple ways to get into the purchase order. Rather than going through the left-hand side item here, we're going to go to this little plus item up top. So we're going to select the plus item. This is going to give us most of the transactions we have in a drop-down type fashion. So we have customers, vendors, employees, and other. When we're talking about a purchase order, what we're doing is we're requesting the purchase of something from our vendors. And the purchase order is going to be a little bit different when we think about this series of transactions as opposed to if we were to purchase something, say, from like Amazon or something online. When we purchase something from Amazon or something online, we have to basically make the payment at the point of purchase, and then we receive the goods after payment has been made. However, if we're purchasing a lot of goods, a lot of times the purchaser has a bit more authority within the transaction, and therefore we might be able to request the inventory to be shipped, actually receive the inventory, count the inventory, see if it is in accordance with what we ordered it to be, and then record or make the payment. And that's what we're going to do here. In this case, what we're saying is we are going to be requesting inventory, not making a payment for that point in time at the point in time that we request it, and we won't be making a payment until after it's received. So this is really just a request. We're just saying, hey, we need this much inventory, ship it over to us, we'll check it out, we'll see if it's what we want, and then we'll make the payment for you. There's actually no transaction related to the purchase order, just going to be a request. So here it is down here. This is the purchase order. We'll select this item. Here is the purchase order. It looks like a bill, but it doesn't have any terms in it because we're not actually making a payment, of course. And we're going to just tab through this information and populate this as we go. I do recommend using the tab function and just tabbing through some forms as you get to complex forms. And that'll just basically let you at least see each input field within the form. First one is going to be to choose the vendor. Vendors are going to be who we buy from. We are requesting the purchase of inventory. We're going to buy guitars in this case. We buy guitars. So we're going to buy a guitar and we're going to choose the vendor, the person that we purchase from. We already have the vendor set up, so we're going to select the drop down and we're looking for Epiphone. So that's going to be Epiphone. Not totally sure it's spelled right, but we're going to say it's Epiphone. Then we're going to tab through this and we're not going to have anything on the email. The mailing address has been populated with what we already have in the vendor field. Doesn't include an address. Probably we should put an address in there for the vendor, but this will be what we need in order to populate and record the data. We're not going to put a ship to here. The shipping address, this will be ours. It's populated automatically because we have that entered into the system, of course. And then we're going to have the purchase date. Now this is going to be the default date, but we're going to put in the date of 01/21/21 This is the year that we're going to be working in, 2021, starting in January. So January 12th is the date of this transaction. Nothing in the ship via, and we'll tab through, and then we've got the customer field. I'm going to tab through this as well, and we're scrolling down, and we want to see the items down here. So these are going to be the inventory items. We've gone through in the past and input the inventory items. These are going to be guitars that we're purchasing for us because we're buying guitars and selling guitars. And so if you want to look into how to input those inventory items, you can take a look at that. If this was a new inventory item, we could enter it here. Because this is a recurrent inventory item, we're going to select the drop down and see if we can find this piece of inventory. So we'll select the drop down. We're looking for the ELP, so that's going to be the Epiphone Les Paul. So we'll select the ELP, Epiphone Les Paul, and it'll populate for us automatically. So then we already have this set up, so here's the description. We're going to buy one of them. The rate's going to be 400. The amount then will be 400. And then we have the customer field over here, and we could enter a customer. Now, before we do that, we do want to point out that the rate looks kind of like there's something happening in terms of a financial transaction. We see numbers, we see dollar signs down here. Now, this rate already is populated because we put it in there when we entered the data, and that means that it's going to be the rate of the guitar that we purchased, not the rate that we're going to sell the guitar for. We had to enter both of those in when we set up the inventory item. And the other thing to note is that although we're seeing the cost here, we're not actually recording it because one, we haven't received the guitar yet, and therefore we're not going to increase the inventory by the 400 until we do. And two, we're not actually making a payment with this purchase order. It's just a request to purchase the guitars at this price, and therefore we're not going to record any reduction in cash or any accounts payable showing that we owe this money. Nothing will be recorded in terms of financial transaction. That's really unusual with the purchase order. That's why I'm making kind of a big deal with it. Any other form we make, typically there'll be financial transactions, especially if we see numbers like this at the bottom of the form, such as an invoice or a bill or a sales receipt. Those are all going to have effects on the financial statements, on the balance sheet and the income statement. Okay, so now we're going to add the customer. Now, if you don't see the customer tab, you have to go through that process we did at the beginning of the video in order to make sure that customer tab is there. Customer tab, optional field, because it's not always going to be there. We don't always need it, meaning a lot of times we're just going to order a lot of guitars. We're going to have them in the store, and there's no particular customer that we ordered the guitar for. However, if in the case of guitars, we might have some custom guitars, or guitars could be expensive in some cases, and we may have a customer say, hey, I want this particular guitar. I want it in this fashion. I want this color on it or whatnot. And therefore, we would make the custom order for that person. We're going to say, hey, we're purchasing this guitar specifically for this particular customer. In doing so, we can then link that to the invoice that we'll later create when we actually deliver the guitar and expect payment on the guitar. So a customer field, optional field, can be useful for those custom type orders when we're ordering specifically for a customer. We're going to say that the customer is a new customer. If we select the drop down, we don't have this customer yet. It's going to be Eric Music, we're going to call it. So Eric Music is going to be our customer, and we're going to be able to add that just as we go. So we're going to say add that customer, select the add field. It's going to be a new customer, and we're just going to save that as is. And there we have it. If we tab through this, there we have it. So the customer is added. Here's our totals here. No effect on the financials. We're going to go ahead, save this item. So we're going to save this, and then we could print this information. So I'm going to go ahead and print this at this point. We're going to print it out, and this will be it. So if we go scroll through this, there's our item. Now I'm going to download it in our printing. So I'm going to select the download, and there's our PDF file. I'm going to scroll down and see where we want to put this. I'm going to put it into this Excel docs here, and I'm going to change the name. So we'll make the name, we want to have it let's just call it a purchase order, and we probably want the date. You might want to put the date up in the front, 01/12/21. That's what we'll put there. And you could format the date, depends how you want to order this thing. So think about how we want to order them. And we're going to say save that information. And there is our purchase order. Note, if we wanted to email it, then we would of course need the email tab, and then we can go ahead and send that directly rather than saving it and then emailing it.